Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Are we good? Is that lunch?
No.
Okay. According to me, we are 40 minutes past 2. According to our program, we were supposed to be starting at arrival and demonstration at 1, 55, and then welcome remarks and all that follow at 2. So we have a feeling that we got it quorum. So we'll give guys on class 15 minutes, which after that will now be forced to proceed, because we don't want to be here past 3 hours. Today is Friday, start. So we will be giving them 15 minutes, and then whoever will be with us in the room will proceed with the people in the room. Is that fine? Yes? Who has a different opinion? You know, it's a democratic nation, right? It's Kenya. Any contrary opinion? Okay, so let's do that.
siku moja. Sasa mimi gani hizi ya kumwafikiti ama amungu kaya tesa ni nyingine
ama upandishe hii, unapandisha hii alafu nani mkafuri angalia, so unaweza kupandisha hii na hii ndio usitoe mtu. Sasa itabidi kutoa hizi nani kama ndo zinaifunga. Siko siko sawa tu, siko sawa tu. Siko sawa.
Never been.
I tried to run away from run away from me.
We are urging us to wear the front seats. So that those people who come very early. Sit at the back. You guys get come as a guy from there and then guys will come very early. We buy the front seats. We have a lot of seats here, drinking water. once again. I think time is right for us to get set with our conversation today. So once again, my name is Abondo Evans from Pamoja Trust, our program officer in Pamoja Trust. So it's a wonderful day. We are here seated today here. As I proceed, maybe Rafiki, my colleague from Pamoja Trust, just wave your hand. That is my colleague from Pamoja Trust. But thank you once again for making time. We understand it's a Friday, and with Kenya, Fridays are usually a no-go zone as far as work is concerned. But you people who are good people decided, no, let's give it a try and have this conversation today here. So we are here for, we're supposed to be here for 3 hours. I'm hoping that we'll be able to be the time. So we were supposed to be starting at 1:45 for the arrival of our guests, and then officially start at 2. And then hopefully by 5 we're supposed to be out of this place. But again, now we are starting quite late, so I'm hoping we'll be able to catch up with the time. So at least by 5:30 we are all out of this place, so that we attend to our other very important activities. So today we are here, and our conversation is not really new, especially for the people who have been in this sector. And we just want to get a glimpse of one of the pressing issues that our brothers and sisters whom we call refugees are going through in Kenya. So we know the situation in Kenya, but again, I don't want to assume, and I'm hoping the film will really give us a glimpse of how the refugee landscape looks like. But before I get to that, I'm glad to mention that this function today was organized by a partnership of quite a number of stakeholders, one being us, Pamoja Trust. Again, International Rescue Committee, IRC, is also a very key actor in this. And then again, we have our Photofilm For Change, who are the main conveners of this conversation today. Of course, through the review program, we've been able to secure this place and this stage, this particular function. So, we're not going to have a very intense discussion. We are not supposed to be so formal, because it's a Friday, and of course, the conversation are quite different today. And for those who are able to get the invitation emails, today we are having a film screening, and the intention of the film screening is just to look into, the challenges that our brothers and sisters from outside are facing in regards to access to job opportunities. We know there are so many actions going around within the refugee landscape and the stakeholders around the refugee space. We have a lot of campaigns going on in regards to access to, basic services, acquisition of documents, support documents for refugees. We have a lot of campaigns going around in regards to, refugee ability to even engage in social and economic activities in Kenya, because our Refugee Act of 2021 really broadens the scope and gives that leeway for our refugees to be able to interact in this Kenyan environment, engage socially, engage in our economic activities, be part of the systems and structures within Kenya. And that being the broader document that we are all making reference to, then very many campaigns are going in regards to that. And we must say that strides are being made in different sectors. We are seeing quite a number of initiatives coming up just to ensure that refugees are able to, live that dignified life. But again, we are seeing that refugees are now able to access a lot of services. But again, we are saying that is not enough, because you can be able to access services, but again, what about your day-to-day, well-being? What about your sources of livelihood? Because just as any other Kenyan is looking to fend for their needs, then similarly is the refugee. So then that brings us to our conversation today, and we are broadly going to look into access to job opportunities for refugees. We want to understand what exactly are these barriers, be it systematic, be it structural barriers that we have. What exactly are these impediments that we are having that are now being a stumbling block for refugees to access job opportunities? So with us today is a lot of discussion about that. that day we have the team that was able to, collect all that information and present it in a form of a film that we're going to be seeing today. So that is really going to be our engagement today, so that we get to just understand what are these stumbling blocks. But again, apart from that, what is very important in this conversation is how are we going to, break this barrier that just enable refugees to be able to access, job opportunities. And when we are talking of job opportunities, we're not talking of, those we call casual laboring. We're not talking of hawking and all that work that the refugees, most of refugees have been subjected to. We are talking of decent work where someone can actually go to work, your rights in particular job environment is looked into, your salary is looked into, so that at the end of the day, the refugee person is equally being, their rights and their needs and wants are equally addressed just as a Kenyan is being looked into. So that is our conversation today, and I'm not going to be alone in this panel today. We are going to have quite a number of panelists coming to discuss this conversation today, just after the screening. And then from there, we want to listen from our forum today participants on how they feel, what are some of the lived experience, then again at the end, what are some of the initiatives that we can all engage in just to ensure we attain that particular objective. So that is going to be our conversation today. And just to begin and help me broaden the conversation today, I'm going to welcome Irene from International Rescue Committee just to lay the foundation and help us understand in depth exactly why we're here today and just broaden our conversation of the day. Karibu sana Irene, thanks again. Please welcome Irene.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can hear me fine. Good afternoon. As has been introduced, my name is Irene from the International Rescue Committee. I will just take a few minutes to speak. I'm actually not here to set the tone. The subsequent speaker will just come on board and explain that comprehensively. For us as IRC, our goal is very clear. This year particularly, we are running a representation campaign, what we otherwise call Securing the Representation Campaign 2025. At the regional level, our outcomes are to ensure that there's enhancement of the refugee rights, that's one, and two, to ensure that refugees have a more enhanced access to services. We have been running this campaign for the last 8 months. Again, at the regional level, and also having these courses with different stakeholders. Most of you have been in these conversations, so I'm really grateful that you are able to really set apart time to be part and parcel of this discussion. Today, we are zeroing in on the right to work, the decent work, and I'm sure all of us have interacted with different frameworks at the global level, the ILO level, and even at the country level in terms of the labor laws. What right to work means, and then how does that translate to the refugees and asylum seekers that we are serving and that we work with on a day-to-day basis. So really looking forward to these discussions, really looking forward to see that how that fits within the current policy sheets, the Shirika plan. There are different frameworks that are really coming on board. There are different declarations, different circulars that are going around, especially from our authorities. How does that look like, and how then can we align to ensure at the end of the day that refugees are well able to attain dignified work and livelihood? So really, that is our job here, and we are really happy that Photofilm have been able to lead this discussion for us. It has just to support strategically how do we frame this discussion. So I'm happy that we are here today, and really looking forward to many conversations beyond that. But I think at the end of it all, what would be the practical ways in which we would be able to implement or pin what will have been discussed in this discourse. So I'm really not not looking for us to just talk poverty, but really come up with proper solutions beyond incentive work, and in a way that refugee can be meaningfully engaged in terms of economic livelihoods. So I will stop at that and say thank you, asante sana, and I will hand it over to Evans. Please take it.
Okay, thank you. Please, let's. Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a program, so you can always make reference to the program. I'm taking this opportunity to call Richard from the Department of Refugee Services, just to give us a glimpse of the discussion today. Thank you, sir. Please, let's welcome Richard.
Thank you so much, Evan. Colleagues from IFC, Photofilm For Review, Promoter Trust, na sisi wote hamjambo, habari ya jioni. So my name is Rich Olaka, and I'm representing the Commissioner for Refugee Services. And really, this is a good moment. It's a good time to have discussions and conversations around access to decent work. Ni namna gani ambayo tunafai tuwe na kazi ambayo si kazi tu, but work that is dignified, work that follows the legal regulations, the legal stipulations that work around that. And primarily, we're also very glad as a department because we are seeing laws coming up on board and taking a lead role at that table to steer conversation and to steer dialogue around issues that affect refugees. Again, we and most of us who work within governance, governance spaces and partners, we don't know the lived experiences of refugees. So the only way we can get to relate and see the lived experiences of refugees, having them on board and having their voices to be taken in on board, really. So, I mean, Photofilm For Change, really congratulations for kicking off the debate and the conversation. This has been a conversation that has been a long time in coming. Of course, we've had so many things around this, but then really this is commendable and kudos and keep up. But then what the refugee landscape in Kenya like? So, as of last month, we hosted around 851,000 refugees. Again, majority of them are in the Dadaab refugee camps, and the others in Kakuma refugee camp. And then, of course, around 120-something thousand refugees in our urban spaces, Nairobi, Mombasa, some of them Nakuru, Eldoret, and other urban areas that we host refugees. So, the government is really aware, as a department, we are aware of the challenges that refugees are having in terms of access to decent work. For example, Class M work permit has been a challenge. A lot of you will bear witness that we've had very few people accessing Class M work permit. But then what are we doing as a department along that, and what's our thinking and the mindset just to ensure that refugees have access to these work permits? Again, that's part of the conversation, but then the broader conversation is, do we really need work permits for refugees if we are granted them refugee status in Kenya? But also even before being granted the refugee status, again we are aware of the backlog. There have been challenges in terms of, for example, today we have over 200,000 asylum seekers who are yet to be granted status, granted or rejected status, which I mean puts a lot of refugees in limbo. That becomes a starting block in terms of access to work. Of course, you may need some of these documents. For example, you need the same work permit, but then a requirement that you first need to have the refugee education. So those are things that we are aware, and a lot of actions in place just to ensure that refugees and again host communities primarily also get facilities, a formal economy to the formal market system that our country really holds for refugees and host communities. Again, Kenya is a party to, of course, the Convention, 1951 Convention and Protocol in 1967. Part of this protocol allow refugees to work and participate within our labor force. And Kenya willingly ratified this law. Again, Evans has talked about the refugee Act 2021, which now allows, it's a very progressive act that now allows refugees to participate and work within our formal system. We have recently in March this year, 28th of March, the President launched the Shirika Plan. The Shirika Plan is built around 6 pillars, and one of the pillars is human capital and skills development. So we're looking at how do we tool, how do we equip refugees to participate in that market system. I know the reality is slightly different, but for sure a lot of work is being done. We are not where we want to be, but then all of these we witness that government is taking a lot of action towards the right step. We are bottlenecks here and there, and we accept that, but then we are certainly on the right trajectory in terms of ensuring that refugees have a right to work and access to work. But then Evans Justice is, when he was speaking, he was talking about formal sector. But then I just want to put this into context. I mean, look at our country. Majority of Kenyans, unfortunately, are not like me who are in the white collar sector. I mean, majority of Kenyans work in the informal economy. I mean, they are border riders, Uber riders, the Mamaboga, and all that. So it's a conversation that we may need to really broaden and look at how do we ensure decent work and access to rights even within those spaces. For example, when you have a refugee running border business, how do you ensure that their rights are taken care of within such context? Because, I mean, it's very easy to regulate what happens in the formal sector, within, for example, essential workers, workers who are employed within the formal sector because there's a legal framework. But then the question is, how do we just get this conversation forward? How do we go to an extent? I mean, you look at this, for example, some of them are involved in domestic work. How do we ensure they are safe? How do we ensure you don't have cases of sexual and gender-based violence within these places? So those are conversations that we need to think about. How do we just broaden our conversation and take into account the realities of displacement within Southern context, where majority of us are working in a space where the citizens of Kenya largely work in the informal sector. So how do we protect the rights of refugees in that informal sector, but also protect the rights of citizens working within this sector? And as I wind up, there's also the aspect of how do we bring in private capital, private public partnership with this. I mean, the private sector is really a big player. If you go to the refugee camp today, Akuma refugee camp, for example, you can see the work that Equity is doing, you can see the work that Safaricom is doing. Recently, we were there with Nyota, one of the World Cup programs. And today, refugees are starting to register SIM cards. Those SIM cards and on and access, what do you call it, financial services, mobile money transfer services. That speaks to financial inclusion and financial sector development. So those are part of the things that government is doing. Again, we are not where we want to be, but certainly, thumbs up for government to do quite a bit to ensure that we have more inclusion of refugees and host communities. The Shirika Plan, I wouldn't end a conversation without talking about the Shirika Plan. We've had a lot of misconceptions. The other day you saw what was happening, demonstrations, and people say, for example, I read one of the posters saying, we don't want to become Kenyan. The Shirika Plan doesn't want to make everyone Kenyan, because if you need to change your citizenship, that means you need to go through the process laid out in the Citizenship and Immigration Act. So the Shirika Plan really is not about that. But anyway, I've seen a lot of pushback, a lot of resistance from the political community, from the host community, and even refugees themselves. But then, from my seat, I think there can never be a more brilliant idea than the Shirika Plan. And if you just look at it, the whole concept is about how do we breathe life, for example, into the global compact of refugees to ensure that we include refugees into our financial system and our economy, really, our socio-economic system as a country. So those are things we may need to do. Like, how do we leverage for the voices of loss, for example? How do we leverage on partners, see reviewed and other partners? How do we leverage on that on their voices to ensure that we have correct messaging of these Shirika Plan interventions that government is doing in terms of ensuring the inclusion of refugees and host communities, especially in Garissa County and in Turkana County, which is our largest refugee hosting areas. So I would go on and on. I mean, there's so much, but then I mean, this really it's a good opportunity, it comes at the right time. It's a welcome conservation, and I'm really excited, and I've been looking forward to engaging and discussing and see how we move forward with this case. Asante sana, thank you so much.
Pigie makofi mazito kidogo. So makofi is class for those. I understand we are in an international meeting here today. Okay. So that's it and done. Thank you so much, Mr. Richard, for highlighting those very important critical initiatives that the government is partaking. And I think one thing that is coming out of all this is that when we talk of decency and job opportunities, we are also addressing the informal, job opportunities like what he has just mentioned, the Dakota guys. How do we ensure that the operations are more decent and, people really appreciate that, these are part of the system, they're part of the economic system, and that they also are supposed to be given an ample environment to thrive just as any other person. So, to just give us, in detail how this came by, some of the experiences, at the ground and all that, I really want to welcome Professor Laura, who will be headed by also, just give us, a glimpse of the research that have been going around on this, so that we get a good understanding of, where we are coming from and where we are heading. Karibu sana, Professor.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Very nice to be here in this room with all of you and to be here for the launch of this film that I was somewhat a part of, I should say. So my name is Laura Kunrither. I'm affiliated with Bard College. I am an anthropologist, and I am not, I will say, I'm somewhat of an outsider to the world of refugee policy, legal, humanitarian, or legal work. How I know most of Moki, who are part of Photofilm For Change, is that we did a study on interpreters in Pakistan refugee camp, for which we were doing lots of research, and they produced a film called The Bridge. I encourage you all to see it. It's a 30-minute docudrama, fictional film based on our research. And of course, interpreters in the camp are incentive workers. And so from this experience, we started doing research about incentive work, and this is what led to the film. So what I'm here to do right now is just give you a little bit of background on that research. And then Komosi will talk a little bit about the making of the film when we see it. So I think everyone in this room knows what incentive labor is, I assume. I will just say that it's a form of labor that is specific to refugees. It's an extremely important labor force within the humanitarian government structure. So in some ways, incentive workers have become kind of civil servants of the humanitarian administration. I will also say that debates about incentive work are coming to the foreground right now with, as was mentioned before, the Sharia Plan and the Refugee Act of 2021. But these debates have been going on for a very long time within UNHCR, ILO, and other publications. So I just want to mention 3 publications that were helpful for us in thinking about this film. The first one was published 20 years ago in 2005. It was a joint report from ILO and UNHCR, and it was called Self-Reliance and Sustainable Livelihoods for Refugees in Dadaab and Pakistan Camps. So in this report, they discussed lots of needs of survival, from dependence on food to informal work to incentive work. And in their discussion about incentive work, they talked about 3 things. One, they said that first, it does not provide a
protective means inherent to the formal labor contract, but it offers more stability and protection than the informal economy, which we've just heard about. Right? It also noted that UNHCR had no formal written guidelines on incentive labor, although some organizations did. And finally, I just want to read one quote, this is from 20 years ago. From the ILO point of view, the incentive worker situation poses a few questions. While it's clear that none of the agencies has any choice to hire refugees formally, the very low level of incentive paid in comparison to salary standards for national staff creates some concern. Agencies, always under funding constraints, use this situation and have an abundance of motivated and in part qualified workers at their easy disposal. It may be worthwhile from the point of ILO, International Labor Standards, to review this situation. In the same context, ILO may feel motivated to raise this issue in the strict prohibition of refugees working in Kenya with the National Ministry of Labor. Again, 2005, this was written. So then, about 9 years later, UNHCR published another report, and that report was in 2014, discussion paper on UNHCR's policy and practice of incentive payments to refugees. And in that report, it really talks about whether incentive work is a form of volunteering or a form of employment. And it talks about why one might think of it as volunteering and why one might think of it as a form of employment, and ends the report by saying, again repeating what was done in 2005, there are no clear guidelines, except in the case of IOM interpreters, which is interesting because in our other research, none of them has seen those guidelines. So that was interesting. But then it ends by saying UNHCR should adopt a rights-based approach and build a favorable policy environment for refugee self-reliance, including the recognition of rights for employment. So that was in 2014. Then there was another report we relied upon that was published in 2022. This was a report done by African Refugee Forum and Oxfam. And in this report, it was a study based on incentive work in Malawi, Kenya, and Uganda, so it was 3 different countries. It was different from the other two. It was based a lot on qualitative research with refugees, filled with all kinds of quotes from refugees talking about their working lives. It also repeats this frame of volunteer or employment, and opts to call incentive workers volunteers. And it adds an additional set of advocacy messages that come directly from the refugees' work that involves psychological health and all kinds of other things about dignity of work. And it concludes by saying there will be a need for an ongoing advocacy and political will to change the legal context of the countries where this research took place. And here we are. So I would like to just say, here we are in the room pursuing ongoing advocacy and political will to think about how to change the situation, which you will hear more in depth in the film. And Shadow Services, the film that you will see now, is one attempt to add to this conversation. The hope is that this film will be useful for those of you who are in the field of advocacy, which I'm certainly not, and Kamoso and Multi are hoping that they can share this with you, that it will become a resource for those people who are actually doing the hard work of making changes that need to be made. So with that, I'd like to welcome Kamoso to tell us a little bit about the film before we see it, how it was made, and then we'll watch.
partner to refugee claims, and fortunately, after so many months, now it came through. I am Kamoso. I'm from Photofilm For Change. Photofilm For Change is a refugee organization operating from Kakuma refugee camp. We use visual storytelling, films, and documentaries to address different issues affecting refugees to advocate for positive change. And now we have recently made this documentary, which is called, so it talks about incentive labor, and we are going actually to watch it right now. I am not going to talk much about the documentary itself. We are going to watch it and see. Probably we shall discuss and have conversation after the film is done. And I'm glad to tell you or to inform you that the film has been sponsored by OSUL, and I'm happy to see that program also are here. Because it's not actually easy to get funds or to be sponsored to make film like this, because we have been looking for funds to make this film from different organizations, but since maybe it might be talking about something which is a bit hard to talk about, it was not easy, but finally we made it. So I would invite everyone to watch the film, and then probably we shall have more conversation after the film. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamoso. We're going to watch the film. Any ask that we give. Then now after the film, we'll get a lot of reactions guided by our panel discussions. So our IT guys, are we set? You ready there?
This is Kakuma refugee camp, and it is around 300,000 refugees from more than 50 nationalities. The camp is located in Kenya, one of East African countries. It was established in 1992 with the majority of its residents coming from South Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia, Burundi, DRC, Eritrea, Uganda, and Rwanda. Various humanitarian agencies operate in the camp and deliver different services to refugees. To facilitate these services, those organizations employ workers from both refugees and host communities. However, the workers are not contracted. Since they are not entitled to from the organization, as refugees are a key issue, we are addressing it so that the solution can be found.
Looking at the workload of the CITA, the National CITA and the Refugee CITA, they are just the same. I sometimes wonder why we are given 9,000 and below, why the national that is the 50,000 and above. So for me, it's a bit unfair.
We have people on the master's degree in the camp, but they are paid lower. So you bear the ID for being a refugee. You are told by your qualifications, you have your refugee card. You cannot be paid higher than that. The national have allowances. They have house allowances, they have water allowances, they have transport, they are sent for training, and the refugees are not given allowances.
Okay, can you beat this team and forget others? Let me give you an example. When we teach 12 lunchtime, the people come with them, we go for lunch, they stay there. Tomorrow we don't have lunch. And then they come back in the afternoon, go on with good job, get away with it. And the other thing is we are challenging the curriculum. You know, when you see someone is treated well, and you are not treated the same, you have that feeling in your mind, saying, oh, I'm a refugee, I am not national staff like others. And of course, we work about your heart with those people.
This inequality between refugees and the national workers is justified by humanitarian agencies who say that refugees receive free services like food, water, and health care from humanitarian organizations, and that refugees do not pay taxes. However, the question is, how adequate are the free services that prevent refugees from receiving equal treatment from their humanitarian employers?
So as refugees usually get food, yes, I don't hide that. That kind of 1 kg is given for one size one to handle him or her for a duration of 1 month. Take it to be yourself, empathize to that scenario. If you're given a food 1 kg to handle for 1 month, are you going to call it on? So it is not enough. So we don't mind if they give us the same amount, then we pay that. There's no problem.
I think you know some lecture of education here. You may find 150 students in one single classroom. You think those children are learning? That is why we see there are some refugees who are of age. Their children not learn to come. They go outside the camp, right there. The poor people, they will learn. And another thing I need to tell you, health care cannot be the reason why they don't pay. Because of what? Not to have permission. We find refugees there. Go to our hotel. In those private hospitals. Some refugees are there because there is no health care. Not to speak this. Yes. Also something that I can manage. Better,
is to carry out the research after getting the challenges that are facing by the refugees. The outcome of this research must be shared to the policymakers so that they look at the challenges the refugees are facing. Look at the payment, the differences of the payment. And yes, people are having the same certificate, but when it comes to payment, you find someone with a small certificate is way higher. Because the person is a national and you are a refugee.
When you go to informal refugees and national, they are well treated. They pay someone according to his knowledge, according to his position. But here, to other agencies, you may find they don't have the refugees, but at the end of the month, what does it mean? UNHCR can see that it's effective for value, not the full maturity of their papers, their value. And then they can consult other organizations and see what they can do. Because it works. If it is offer full service like national, then it's not service that is bad and because it's provided by the so applying to an service and qualification of someone, the qualification of someone, the forgiveness of someone, not the status of someone. They can consider the level of education and the service someone offers instead of considering the status. Saying you're a refugee, you don't deserve better treatment. Saying you're a national, you deserve smart treatment. When you are sick, they will take you somewhere with have good treatment. Kind of that kind of segregation. I think the best thing is to sit together with other agencies that overcome that problem of segregating people. And they are a model.
We approach different humanitarian organizations employing refugees or incentive workers to get their treatment. Unfortunately, they did not agree to give out their perspectives. The majority of organizations engage refugee and incentive workers. But there is one organization called Photofilm For, which has introduced equality and fairness amongst workers regardless of status.
For us as an organization, we've always looked at fairness and equality as one of our core drivers in all of our HR policies. With the specific issue of working within refugee communities and having equal pay for equal work, that's an important organizational value of ours. People should be paid equally for what they do. There's all of this research done on how people who feel appreciated and happy at work do better work. And so it's a win for the employee and it's a win for the organization. And and it's a way for justice and human rights as well. I think there are some organizations that see refugees as cheap labor, that you can have a cost savings if you hire an incentive worker on an incentive wage rather than paying somebody market rate. To me, that's exploitative labor practices, which we don't believe in and we don't stand for. So for us, the fact that we're doing this is also a chance for us to talk to other partners and say, here's how you can also do this. So that was part of our own advocacy strategy. I think just the 1959 convention and the concept of the right to work, we see over and over again in different communities, not just in Kenya, but in other places, that there's a really big gap between the rights framework and the implementation. And it's incumbent on us to find ways to bridge that gap. My hope is that as there are more and more progressive policies being rolled out, like for example in Kenya's Sharia plan, and more people understanding the overall value of economic inclusion of refugees, that this becomes less and less of a hot topic. So the concept of an incentive worker is hopefully something that will die out as we see continued investment in refugees.
We approached the International Labour Organization in Kenya to hear their opinions as their work is to achieve decent work for everyone.
Incentive labor or work or pay really is not something that you will find on any literature on decent work. It goes against every possible Kenyan law. It goes against the minimum wage. It goes against the Employment Act. It goes against the Refugee Act. And when it comes to employment, the Employment Act is supreme. And that is what we've used in a Photofilm. Part of the Constitution of Kenya as well. It speaks to non-discrimination. So, no, from a legal angle, there is really more expressed. It's more operational reasons and administrative hurdles that are sustained for a very long time.
The ILO has been having this conversation with UNHCR for a long time. In 2005, ILO and UNHCR issued a joint report on incentive labor in Kakuma, where they recommended reviewing the standards for payments since some incentive payments appeared under law. 9 years later, in 2014, UNHCR published another report in which it stated that incentive work should acknowledge a refugee rights to work and that trust-based standards should be established for all incentive workers. Today, incentive labor still suffers from many of the same problems identified by the ILO and UNHCR in 2005 and 2014. When will the organizations like ILO and UNHCR make the changes that we urgently need? Will it be another 20 years?
Thank you so much. Another clap for Kamoso and team. What's your one takeaway, if any? Chief, I know you engage a lot in such, and you also do provision of food to the community. I don't know whether you consider such. You say, if you're already refugee, I'm going to show so I don't know. We will give you an opportunity to just share with us some of these issues. We will get inputs at another time. But now I really want us to take a small break, a very small break. Tea is with us here, and we, as Kenyans, we have to take tea. So I really wish we go for tea for only 10 minutes, and then we come back seated for us to listen to our panel discussion. So please be welcome, feel free to grab a cup of tea and some snacks there as we proceed. We only have 10 minutes, please. So how I wish already we stand up and have our cup.
and then there was a very long course. But and then I came here to Nairobi, I met
That's how it works. It's much better, right? It's easier.
So giving a study,
I did a study. I mean, I'm in the midst of writing it, but we work together mostly on, it's about an really focused on interns.
I think because I mean, there's a very broad conversation around that. So part of the reason that someone is one, our family, but two, when you become a worker,
yeah, you need to pay tax.
Yeah. Then for you to get a fee, yes, so my idea is that so why
there's a lot of challenges.
when this is a good debate, I mean, if we really need to address it, there are a lot of other structural issues.
Well, that's, I mean, about like, taxes, that's a big thing, about how much, local content.
Local content which you can account. So what they're saying, let's say, which percentage of staff should be from so I mean, it's a good conversation.
I mean, I think that the issue of taxes we talked about quite a bit, and most we don't mind taxes. How do you get it? Right. No, how do you get the documents? How do you get the... And then I think that this is why I should be part of and I think that's certain kinds of bodies and other kinds of
it's a good conversation. But then you're thinking of what we will do with this.
yeah, no. And it seemed like that is what many people have said from UNHCR or from in this structure. This is the best thing that we can do. This is a good thing, right? It's a progressive thing. We're actually asking or providing a place for work.
We have
I don't know how to what does that, but I think what's the problem we tend to think about the short work, which is, in my mind, looks like a very progressive and, sometimes we create structures and then end up doing the opposite of what they're supposed to do. So a structure like you said, may end up separating refugees and national workers far more than that's, I guess, the big question. Like, what are the effects? What do they actually doing socially, politically, etc.? Yeah. what is using to employ interpreters. And interpreters are hired. Right, they're the people who speak the language. You need them. Right, you need them for every.
Part of the message we are launching, how to use all
yeah, and how can you hire them as more than just a patch? That's a thing.
English is easy, but then we not get guests to how to get
yeah, I think our
language.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many languages. That's good. Thank you for speaking and being here. Yeah. We have some tea.
wale wanazungushaga viatu kwa nini ndio just unaona wanashika rahisi wote ni ndio.
Yeah, so they say depending on the minimum then it's also another issue. Don't give you another sort of defense. So
hello. Hello. Hi. You can hear me make a clap. 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 Okay, women instruction is very important. I have a clapping 5 times. It's good. So, how was tea? How is tea? This is nice, right? It's a Kenyan tea. Okay, so I wish we proceed, please. Let's use the small kamukunjis, the murmuring, so that we proceed. And as we do that, I want to recognize the presence of players in the room today. I just mentioned an organization, you just say hi so that people can recognize the presence. So I'll start with the state actors. So we have the chief in charge of allocation. Please just say hi. Please give a clap to the chief. We have representatives from the DRS led by Richard. Richard, just wave. Please give a clap to Richard and the team. Then we have the team from Nairobi County Government. George, please just for your hands. I mean, Geoffrey, for your hands. We have Alex from NCCG. Why are you clapping so? Just clap like you're in minutes. Just one clap. Let's do it again. Geoffrey and Alex from NCCG. Thank you so much. Now to others. Okay, others we have. It's government first. So we have Georgia Sharia with us. We have Jump Over 70 with us. One clap, please. We have the Lab Response Association. One clap, please. I hope you are seeing whom you are clapping for. Okay, so you see them and then you clap. Eh? Okay, okay. We have Port of Mana. Hello, one clap, please. We have the International Labour Organization. Please. We have Kodak, the Grace. Thank you. We have Aki Jamii with us today. Where are we? Where is Aki Jamii? Representative? Okay. We have Africana with us in the house. We have, the two I mentioned. We have our Ubuntu Youth Organization with us. We have New Minds. We have UNHCR with us, another government. We have Moja Refugee with us in the house. We have Henry Boyle Steve Tan with us in the house. We have Youth Voices for Community. We have Habs Bat with us in the house. Habs Bat. Okay. There we have Ikomoko with us in the house. Another clap for Ikomoko for the wonderful job I was just doing. Many claps. They just showed us set a good precedence in terms of decent job opportunities for refugee brothers and sisters. Please, I'm aware that some of us have not filled this participant list, and there's another that is coming. Please ensure you sign for us the participant list. So I'm taking this opportunity to invite the one and only Fadosa, not the Fadosa that we know from Twitter, But the one that is with us here, please welcome so that you please transport the panelists. My name is Sarah.
I don't know how to start I'm really upset that you didn't have a pleasure to that research hub where I'm from. My name is my name is Sara. I'm a researcher from the Refugee-led Research Hub. So since I haven't been mentioned, I'm going to take a second to talk about the Refugee-led Research Hub and that. So the Refugee-led Research Hub has offices in Oxford because it's an initiative of the University of Oxford, and it supports people with displacement backgrounds to be leaders in the humanitarian response. So a lot of the work that the hub is doing right now is on fair employment, and that is, I think, why I'm the moderator of the session. Taking a segue to the conversation today, I think we have seen the video and the testimonies of many refugees who are sharing their lived experience. And so, start that conversation, please help me welcome my panelists who also bring their same lived experience, and we can share their experiences on what it's like to be an incentive worker. So we have two representatives from Kakuma and the DAB. We have Inkomoko and we have Adekutosha Sharia. And in no particular order, after we have to welcome Nasron Saitas, who was in the documentary. She is a program lead at Humanity Times, which is a refugee-led organization in Kakuma. And Nasron brings this experience of incentive work and also our leadership. And she will share the current reality and what that's like for people who are working in the incentive space or who are incentive workers. Please have you welcome Texans on stage. The second panelist is Ochan Okelo. He is also an Aredo leader from the hub. He's the director of Response Association, an organization that just was mentioned. He provides He's been an incentive worker for a very long time, from 1998 to 2022, if you can imagine. And he will provide what that long-term historical perspective on incentive work. These highlight these practices and if anything has changed, what has evolved over time, or is there stagnation in the space. Please help me welcome Ochan to the stage. The next panelist is Margaret Mengo, who is from Inkomoko, Kenya. She is the managing director of Inkomoko, Kenya, and she will share practical strategies that work especially in hiring refugees in this space. Here is Margaret. The last panelist, and in no particular order, I am not. I don't think. Tertiary perspective is really important in the advocacy work that we do. So please help me welcome Khaled Mbugwa. I think this slide is meant for me, I'm guessing, so I'll just take that one. So I just want to kind of talk about exactly why we're here, what is the aim of this panel, especially because we are seeing this documentary, and the documentary should be kind of working out and that conversation and highlighting the challenges that refugees face in the DAB camp. So why are we exactly having this conversation? The aim of the panel is to unpack the challenges and really get the conversation started. You've had a lot of the challenges that refugees are facing in terms of intensive work, but can we also segue to best practices? What has been working in this space and what doesn't? Can we change anything? Because this started a long time ago, 1998, from the perspective that we have today, and it hasn't changed anything. Then what can we do differently? So as that conversation started, I will start with Nasron, who was in the documentary, just to tell us if the experiences that other people are facing in the they reflect the real challenges that refugees are facing in the camp? Do you have any other perspectives that you want to add, or any additions to that? What are the current realities and challenges that refugees are facing when it comes to decent work in the camp?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nasron Aslekat, and I'm not going to introduce myself again because you have already introduced me. I come from Kakuma, refugee camp, and first starting by telling you that I'm a refugee who came to the camp when I'm 5. So sorry, I like Kiswahili, so there's a Changanya, because me ni mtoto wa Kakuma. So I came in the camp when I'm 5 years, and I studied from nursery, back at my college, and now at Southern University. So my experience as a teacher, I started teaching in 2019 up to 2021. And my experience in that field was such I can call it amazing, but at some point it is a challenge to me because what I want to share today is about the responsibility we had and the difference between refugee teachers and the national teachers. So for us as refugee teachers, as we all know, we teach, and you know the scenario in the camp is we teach a maximum of 200 and above students or learners within the class. So we share the same roles with national teachers, we teach them, we even write we write documents just the same. We also we handle class the same. Like all the responsibilities, the workload, everything is the same, but there's difference in payment. So as you have heard there, I've mentioned 9,000, but during my time, I was receiving 6,800 as a teacher. That is for untrained teachers. By then, the trained teachers were being given 7,500, and the 9,000 is for the current situation in the camp. Teachers who are untrained are paid 8,000, then the trained teachers are paid 9,000. So even if you have bachelor degree, what level of studies you maybe went to, you are still given the same amount, different to the national teachers. So the nationals are paid is less, 30,000. Maybe I can't assure because I've not went into the account, but what I do hear from my colleagues, they usually receive that and above. So depending on their level of education. So if you have acquired maybe bachelor, you are given different rate. So during that time, we have faced a lot of challenges such as low wages, delay in payment. Sometimes they pay us the 15th the next month, of which it is challenging to us. The only thing you are depending on is again extended. You are waiting for it for again a half of 1 month and a half. You are waiting for that small money. I call it stipend, I call it incentive money, but yeah, that is the thing we are depending on by then. So we also lack job security because, you know, as refugees, we are not sure of the contracts we have signed. So we might sign a contract for 1 year, but at some point, budget cut in Abuja, they cut some people out. So we are not sure of the jobs we are in as teachers. We are also treated differently due to status. For example, as you have heard from the video, that there are people, the national teachers are paid allowance whenever they go to trainings or meetings. But for us as refugee teachers, we are not given that allowance. So for us, we only go and attend to come back home. They claim that we have ration cards, but the ration cards are not enough for us. The food that we are given, as you have heard from my speech, it is 1 kg or 1.5 kg for one person. And imagine that 1.5 kg of cereal cannot extend you until the month ends. It doesn't even reach 1 week. It finishes. For example, for my experience, I am the household head, and my siblings, I have around 17 siblings we are living with. And everyone in that household is depending on me with that 6,000, just imagine. So, if the child is sick or maybe my brother or whatever, if there is any health issue, I have to take loans or maybe so that I sort my brother. I'm not going to wait for my brother to die because I don't have money. So that money we shall divide within food and only that. So another thing I can say is some of my colleagues have higher educational status, and the qualifications also, they have experience. There are people who have experience in teaching, maybe for 10 years, they are still teaching. There's no one who's promoted. Imagine being in the same, teaching lower grade for 10 years, you are not promoted, not even being given a senior position. So it is a challenge we have been facing. So in my own experience, it is directly tied to what you have seen in the film, and maybe I've added some things that you have not heard from the film, and maybe you might ask some questions later about that. So the only addition I can make is a kind of quote, is that inequality is not just about pay, it affects our dignity as teachers or the incentive teachers, and also it affects the ability to plan for future. That's why we continue to advocate. I know I might not advocate very well, but still I can stand for my right, seeking for the right work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nasra, for really giving us a great context of what incentive workers like, how it affects everyday life of everything. And for bringing out challenges, you mentioned so many big issues, the lack of recognition, and I love what you said about, it's not just the payment issue, it's the lack of dignity that comes with it. That you've been doing the same thing, that you are valued, that you are recognized. And really, I want to invite Ochari to this, because you've mentioned that you could be in the same position for over 10 years. So case in point, we have someone who's been in this position for 24 years. And I wanted to bring this perspective on exactly what the transitions are. Are there differences to when someone was an incentive worker in 1998 to right now, an incentive worker with UNHCR or any organization? Has anything changed really? And what are your perspectives on that in terms of policy change and what's the humanitarian space?
Thank you, Leda. In fact, it's very interesting things that we need to know. We have to learn from one another how somebody faced challenges, and maybe if there are some developments around. And of course, I came here very long ago when I was young. Now I'm becoming old here in this country, but I'm still living in the country. So, 38 years in the country. I live here 10 years in Nairobi, then the rest of the years in Ghana. And of course, I've been working as the incentive server since 1998 up to 2022. But what were there? Number one, as you hear my colleague has already said, by then the payment was so low. And the refugee teachers, me I'm a teacher by the way, so the refugee teachers were earning in those years, in the late 90s, 1,200 shillings, while the next week was earning 25K. So we protested, then there was an increase of 300 shillings. Then later we said, no, that is not enough. So after 2 years later, we were given some more. Until 5 years later, we are given another 6. So from 6 we say that one is not possible, because we are also demanding. So the moment we increase the pay of the new teachers, they also increase the pay of the national teachers. So the question that we ask, what is the difference between the refugee and then the national? Because when we look at it, we find the statistics which are rendered to nationals are quite different. Then we say, oh, this is a real discrimination. Why should we do so? When we come to transport, the vehicles that pay the national teachers, the refugee teachers cannot do it. I think that one, I give the assignment because I wrote that one in an article because migration review, article 60. So we go and look at it where we identify the teacher system in the article. So you see how we have described the situation. Now on that context, yes, we do, because I serve very many NGOs and NGOs, starting with CARE, coming to LWF. I serve also under DRC, I serve NRC, ADEO, IRC. Now, all these partners I work with. But the only situation that was not warranted, the difference between the two, and that was before they employed salary. So when the officer worked there, during the assessment, they wanted to understand what is the difference between the pay among the teachers. Then they realized that what was given to the refugees should not be called salary, because that is a token. So they were going to work the incentive. That's where the incentive comes. So in this context, they say, okay, if this is the problem, what can we do? We are working more, and our workload is too much compared to the national teachers. They have limited time, and they are going to come and take them away. So you as refugees, you have to stay with us. Whether on the public holidays or not, you have to stay because you are removed. But the national teachers simply issue arises, right? Maybe you should get here. That you should not have it. You must go and attend the school. And why should you do that? That is where the problem now arises. So I was among the people who were pushing so hard. What they are doing, that kind of discrimination should be pushed out. Of course, things are less. But on that point, when we joined, the unfortunate part of it now is, as you hear my sister talk about, regardless of what qualification or your professional background. So after we completed the master's degree, that's where we met the part. And that's where I ended up not working with the organization. Because the organization will see that I'm a friend. Because my qualification, you always say you are overqualified. What do you mean by overqualified? This is what I want to understand it. You will have to tell me what is overqualified. When you look for a job, immediately we completed the master's degree, then I was fired. In the name of budget crisis, there was no one to sponsor me. So I tried to look for a job. When I put my document, I said, no, you are overqualified. No, you are overqualified. Then I say, amazing. So the only thing we went was point our organization, the Adaptive Sponsors Association. That was majorly on research activities to understand what is within the camp. Why is this kind of issues rising up? What are the diseases undergoing? So we got a lot of articles. We also read from refugee-led organizations. You would go to the LAM website, RERRM website. Then you'll see our findings under the Adaptive Sponsors Association, what we have talked about. So those are the key areas that we find within incentive services. We do not understand whether it is policy or it is not policy. If it is policy, where it is documented? Because policy must be documented. So this should be the appropriate policy, which either the UNHCR and the organizations made or would, which is even contrary to higher law. And it is not even anywhere within the Refugee Act, within the Kenyan Constitution. Because when you look at the Kenyan Constitution, Article 47, you say everybody is entitled to the job. So who is not the party? are refugees not a bit political? And the refugees went are working here in Kenya. They are not working for their country, but they are working for the country of Kenya. And this is where we need to understand. And this is what we need to address. So if we are serving, the refugees are serving here in Kenya, serving the people of Kenya, even if they are serving the refugees themselves, where is the money going? The money is circulating within the country, is developing the country. So let us do this.
That does yes, just because, you know, I think the important thing that to really ask important questions. One, first of all, what is the value of having participation? And the money is not going anywhere at the end of the day. And it's really added to Titan's points on the key issues that exist in discrimination and equal pay, and I say exploitative nature of what those companies are doing. And having all of those challenges, I wanted to invite people who all know that are doing at least not in terms of hiring and continuing. And we also have the opportunity to talk about the other. But really, I want to understand what strategies have you used, or what strategies have worked for you in terms of fair hiring practices, and what lessons can other organizations learn from you today?
Thank you very much. Where do I start? I arrived this morning from the Dab. I spent the weekend in the Dab, about team in the Dab, and it's always a reflective moment when you land back in Nairobi and everything is the same way you left it. And yet, when you're there, you are uncertain about the number of things. So it's always a reflective moment when you come back home and come back to the life that I'm used to, and yet so scarce to other people who exist amongst us. So my name is Margaret Nebo. I work as the managing director of Homoko here in Kenya. Homoko is an organization that focuses on financial inclusion for refugees and host communities. We have representation in 5 countries in Africa. So Kenya is one of them, South Sudan, Chad, Ethiopia, and Rwanda. We started off in Rwanda many years ago, 2012, not many years ago, 2012, and we've been in Kenya since 2019, so about 6 years. Our work, as I mentioned, is centered on financial inclusion for refugees and host communities. The focus is mainly to provide business advisory services to refugees that then will help them create businesses, and in the process also fund the businesses for them. So we work with idea-stage businesses as well as businesses that are already existing. Our focus is mainly on micro, small, and medium enterprises. Now, within our team, we work with refugees. We hire refugees as part of our teams across the countries that we work in. So if it is in Kenya, we have refugee staff members or people with refugee status as staff members. But at the same time, we also have 65% of our clients or our entrepreneurs, if I could make that easier, because every time we say clients, we are always confused for many other players within the private sector. But our entrepreneurs, 65% of them are aimed to be refugees. So what are we doing? We are providing employment as in Homoko, but at the same time, we are creating jobs through refugees and the host communities for the refugees. What is our strategy? As you saw on the trailer of the film, our CEO, Sarah Lidon, speaks about our core values as an organization, which are fairness and equal opportunities, providing equal opportunities for our staff and for the people that we work with. So whenever we have opportunities opening up, whether it's in Nairobi, we are opening them up for everyone who can. So, and as you have heard from Ochan, circumstances does not define the refugee status. They don't define dignity. People leave their countries most of the time not by choice, and that's why we call them refugees. Forced displacement is not a choice. And you will find very well-educated people out there. But when we reach out to find people to hire within the organization, we do find them. However, the process of onboarding them is not easy because the legal frameworks are not created to support a smooth sailing entry for this individual into the workspace. But what does Inhomoco do? We provide a lot of support documentation to people with refugee status. So what does support documentation look like? We'll provide an employer recommendation letter. We'll provide any documentation that would be required by the government to allow them to get work permits that support their employment in the organization. How does this affect our talent pipeline? The process is very lengthy and very demanding and also very expensive. For this person who has come into this country and is seeking to get a source of livelihood and has to work so hard and pay out of pocket to ensure that they actually get their work permits. So it's also very expensive for the organization when you think about it, because you're holding a position for an individual and there's really not a clear guarantee that this person is going to get their work permit and that will allow them to work. Sometimes I have a moment with this very personal moment. Every time I think about other forms of immigration and the process of attaining work permit status for all these other forms of immigration, I think about it from many angles, and I want to be as politically correct as I can. But it's a very difficult conversation to have, that you will be brought in to another organization and get your work permit easily, but someone who has come under duress almost cannot get even half the same treatment as this other person who is almost privileged, I would say. That's very personal to me, and the aspiration in my role is to see that we are leveraging tools and frameworks like the Shirika Plan that promises to offer opportunities to refugees to be able to access work, business licenses, SIM card registrations, ID cards that allow them to be able to be tax contributors. By the way, I mentioned the power of businesses to actually invest in refugee businesses. And I can say here without fear of conflict that refugees are bankable and they are the best payers to the loans that we give out. They pay back. So what are we saying? We are saying we view people with refugee status as an asset, as an opportunity that can be leveraged. I was deep in Dakahale yesterday and it's buzzing with a lot of activity. Like there are people who are going about their life despite everything else that is not working out for them, but they're going about their life and keeping it going. And so what would make us, what would make other players, other actors in that space not want to give these people an opportunity? I think it's a question I pose to all of us. How can the government, represented here by DRX, how can our county governments, how can private sector players come in and join hands to see that we are providing an avenue for the people with refugee status to actually access them? So I'm not sure that I have fully answered your question, but I have very, very many reflective moments every time I think about it. But Inhomoco has been able to recruit and continues to recruit refugee status folks as employees, but at the same time, through the businesses that we create, we are building a pipeline for job creation. So there will always be work for people with refugee statuses within the businesses that we are creating. In Kenya, we have influenced about 25,000 businesses to be created, which means that We have created jobs, more than 25,000 jobs here in Kenya. And that could be people have hired maybe 2-3 refugees. So many jobs in Kenya. Across the region, we have supported over 110,000 businesses since our inception. And we continue to do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congress, for your reflection and thank you for the reflection. I think one thing that I got from not just one thing, but I just want to highlight one thing that you said, that there are lots of challenges. The lengthy, process, it's an expensive process, it takes forever to hire a refugee. And it's not a skill issue, no one is mentioning this skill issue. We have refugees who have masters, right? But then you said something about having the goodwill. It has to be an organizational role or a goodwill from the organization to actually have inclusion. And inclusion that is a bit expensive, but the fact that people are excluded from your work just says that, it says a lot. So yeah, to segue into a lot of issues that have been mentioned on policies, I want to welcome Peggy, who is, has been doing a lot of advocacy for the Sharia. And I've actually been in some of your workshops, amazing work. I've actually worked with at some point in my career, so that I know a lot of the work that they do. And I just wanted to understand from the Sharia perspective, who is a key player in this area. How do you, in terms of the pushing for fair wages and decent work, what are some of the initiatives that you have been part of, and how has that actually translated into policy change?
Thank you, Professor. My name is Caleb Over. I'm an advocate. I work with social media. For those who don't know social media, it's an organization, probably the oldest human rights organization. Started in 1973. We work closely with the refugee community and the possibly displaced people. And I would say the key players around fair remuneration of refugees. I would say it's a whole society, whole government approach. From the NGOs, from the CSOs, the refugees, and the laws, and the government as well. So what we're doing currently as Future Sharia, with support from the country board system, is we identified that there's a huge challenge and a restriction that has been brought by the requirement for the refugees who are in Kenya, through the requirement for them to have the consent work permit. If you look at the Refugee Act, it provides that a refugee can work in Kenya without any restrictions. That restriction, specifically the consent work permit, is introduced by the Kenyan Immigration and Citizenship Act. So, having identified this issue, we are tackling this challenge through equal action and widespread advocacy. We have filed a landmark strategic litigation petition around consent work permit and access to decent employment and work for refugees. We aim to get a clear pathway for refugees to access employment by having the government address these bureaucratic hurdles, the administrative barriers, and the systemic barriers around the issuance of the consent work permit. Simultaneously, we are running an advocacy campaign on refugees' rights to work. We've joined hands with organizations and those refugees to advocate for policy changes, to advocate for policy influence, so that we can have more and more refugees access to decent employment, not just only employment. If you look at the current landscape in Kenya, the resources have significantly reduced. The funding space has been affected critically, which has, as you can see from the news, we have ongoing demonstrations in Makam, almost weekly. We have so many people who've lost their lives. And there's a critical need for refugees now to access employment so that they can become self-reliant, which is now being pushed by the policies in Kenya, including the recently launched data.
since I have you, you have the mic, I just wanted to ask a follow-up question how does the University Act and the Shariqa Plan affect refugees working in countries? We are seeing a lot of cases in terms of, and obviously talked about the misconception and the challenges that come with the Shariqa Plan, but how would that affect access to employment for refugees?
I would say from the Shariqa Plan, we've had significant developments. We had the recently gazetted regulations that now allow refugees to register SIM cards using their IDs, which ultimately will lead to financial inclusion. If you look at the Refugee Act and the Shariqa Plan, they are beautiful laws, policies on paper, and we hope from it we have the government actualize the goals and the vision of the Shariqa Plan and the Refugee Act. However, we have significant challenges in terms of actualization of the goals, which is now seen in lived experiences for the refugees here in the country. In terms of the administrative barriers, there are so many hurdles, there are so many systemic barriers, there are so many unwritten and undocumented bottlenecks that affect the realization of the goals and enshrined in the Refugee Act and the Shariqa Plan.
I know we have we are supposed to have another round of questions, but I want to open the floor for questions. And if that answers all of the questions that I have for the panelists, then that's great. So I will take the first round of questions and then have the panelists answer, and then we'll take the second round of questions. That's okay. I don't know if someone can help me.
Comments and then questions. Number one, thank you so much to the panelists. This is very eye-opening. I think even for those who are running campaigns on the right to work, there's still so much that we're not aware of that is happening, and this conversation is really becoming a lot. Just to note that this last year, in September, Kenya signed up a bilateral agreement with Germany, and the deliberations were so focused on how do we protect Kenyans, how do we do this. On the other hand, when it's a refugee, their country is not there to really negotiate anything. So signing a bilateral migration agreement, the standards that we are, the only person who can protect them is the host government. And just recently I've been working with the Sudanese displaced community in Kenya, and most of them do not want to register as refugees because they say the word protection around the refugee word, there is no protection around it. And they're afraid, already they've lost a lot by being displaced, and they feel if they register as a refugee, then they're even going to lose a lot more. So I'm not sure whether we need to rebrand the word refugee, and I what we can change that to, maybe to change the circumstances. My question would go to the panelists. I'm wondering, does your pay come from the Teachers Service Commission, or it's from INGOs?
Thank you for the panelists. I think you have indicated about the experiences and also the issues I have two questions, one directed to Margaret and one directed to Karen. For Margaret, I would like to know what proportion of employees, have you been able to absorb in terms of performance contracts? Perhaps maybe you can shed a little bit more light in terms of statistics. So then even as we are trying to adopt this kind of model, we know how doable or how progressive it can be. And then for Caleb, from a very different standpoint, what do you think are the specific policy or legal changes that need to be introduced in order for the proper economic employment model to be adopted. Like, we do know what the employment is. So what really is the issue besides what the policies are, but what really are the reforms, the actual reforms and practical actual reforms that can help us really adopt a proper employment.
Thank you for inviting this course. I have a question I'm trying to understand that so my question is, I'm going to for both the Kenyan policy and for the and then, on top of that, is there a matching skill so that there is a match for the skills and the educational qualifications that the refugees have and the jobs that they get? So, for instance, for the teacher, is are the qualifications that they say are TSC and yes, the same ones that the refugees have? Because attention. And also do some, how this worker approach came about, so that I can also be understand it. What is a scenario where it was maybe, as say, an incentive, so additional, it means the study group qualifications like that, and you can give them when I agree with you. All the employees have the same skills in terms of qualifications for a yeah, and lastly, if anyone will have some feedback on this, are there maybe opportunities that we can receive from regional integration perspective where are there better conditions or prospects in using a different framework to access some of these rights? For instance, if an issue from another institution is for instance, is that a little bit easier or is it harder? Is it another question would be, is it easier to switch so that the ESC offers you a better pathway to accessing some of these rights? Should they be then is it easy to switch?
How do organizations or institutions, particularly if you're talking about hiring of refugees and ensuring equal access, how then do you navigate supporting asylum seekers who have not yet maybe gotten the status as refugees and having refugee IDs? Because again, documentation plays an important role in ability to access the market, in ability to open a bank account, ability to open an FSA. And so how then does that happen when they will not have a refugee ID? Because maybe some people do struggle with that perspective, and I'd like to hear how Inkomoko navigates that, and then also maybe, again, from the government's perspective, when you're talking about inclusion, but refugees don't have refugee IDs, then that is where the start of the problem is. Because we have these meetings every time, coming again, identifying the same issues. Next time again, we're called for the same meeting. But we're not identifying, like, okay, from the last time, these are the progresses we have made, these are the changes we have made. It's just panel discussions and panel discussions that are not reflective. Or from last year when we met, this is what we have done. So from last year, if we do this again, can the government come and tell us, DRS, from last year when we met, these are the numbers of supported refugee IDs, and this is what they're doing contributing to the economic sector. Because roundtable and panel discussions about this without actual impact really is not helpful.
name is Winnie from the Research House, and a lot of the conversation tied around employment is the gentleman from what Sharia has mentioned is tied to the Sharia, of which a lot of the interpretation has become integration, the process of integration. And a lot of research that is coming out is showing that refugees are not necessarily certain about integrating into the Kenyan society. Legally speaking, it's definitive that there is no pathway to either permanent residence or citizenship in Kenya. So how would we balance this? Because it is something that needs to be addressed. Refugees accessing decent work. But how do we balance that between accessing employment and also ensuring that integration was meaningful as possible?
Good evening. My name is Fortunata Kamuna. I have two questions. This goes to teachers in government. I'm a bit concerned. We are wondering who the employer is in this case, and my concern is now that you say that you do not receive any other allowances and the national teachers, are you also allowed to maybe contribute towards your pension benefit? Are there opportunities for you guys to get insurance from your employers once you receive the 6,800 and then you can get the 6,800? That's one question. Now this other one goes to Jahadi. I don't know whether it's a concern or a question, but do you think that we have all the stakeholders and players on the table? Because we will keep talking, and this is a cycle that we need to break. Because these teachers have children, right? And if we keep doing the same thing, then it means we pass it on to the next generation and the next. So my concern is, do you think we have the same, all the players on the table? And are there people who have serious problems like and the second concern is on how do we now incentivize other employers? Because you see, if somebody is not intentional about going through that lengthy process to engage a refugee, then they will choose not to. So how are we approaching that as a country?
My name is Video. I'm from Business. My question goes to Patrick and Caleb. In the host countries, so in the host countries, the government is generally budgeting the issue of employment, even the citizens. So, what spaces, what available spaces are there for refugees so that they can come also and try to get speak of the challenges of employment. And even public policy reforms, you've spoken of bilateral agreements. So when the government is speaking of trying to get opportunities for job opportunities for its citizens. So who really speaks for the refugees? And because we know clearly there are countries that may not really speak for them. And then who really speaks for them? And who's really mandated to speak for them? Then the other question is, yes, we speak on employment, but let's not forget that most of the in the formal sector. So even in the employment side, we focus so much. The narrative looks more or less like those who are in the formal employment. So what about those who are in the formal sector? So what plans or strategies can we develop to make sure that at the end of the day they receive the right pay, such things.
We have really attentive audience, especially because it's a Friday evening or afternoon. So thank you so much for all of the amazing questions. I will start with, on that end, we're going to Caleb, who has the most questions. I'm so sorry for that, but I think it's a good way to get the conversation started, right? Caleb might not have all the answers, but yeah, we're starting the conversation from there. So, yeah.
Those questions, as we see, they are surrounding one in many cases we find that refugees do not have weapons. And who is with the weapon? Unfortunately, the IS is here. So they are the ones who so we don't have work permit for refugees. That is one thing. And then the other thing that we need to consider here is that whenever you are employed, your employer also have other links, say connection. So in the case of the refugee areas, both the nationals and then the refugees are employed by the NGOs. So all the working areas are advertised. So for the nationals, we go and find it through the website. That we apply it online. But for the refugees, they are posted. Now currently, they are also advanced. They advertise it on the WhatsApp so that you apply. So when you are taken, then you go and serve the community the way you are supposed to. But mind you, it's only if you like within the government institutions, we have the salaries according to the job group. That is also the scale in the refugee area. So there are only two job groups. That is job group refugee and the job group national. So the job group refugee are low and the job group nationals are high. So that is what is taking place. And all the stakeholders, the implementing partners, those organizations around, they sit down and discuss how much we do to this and how much we do to this. So those are the discussions around that take place. But I really appreciate it more for whenever somebody has to be up on this. They are trying their best to lift the living standard of every depending on your situation. But all the same, there are not outcries from other organizations because they say in Komoko is bullying all the people because they are paying that. So everybody wants to get up that life. So whenever you hear there is good thing somewhere you run, that is what it is. So in this case, we find that there are a lot of issues that even if you talk and you don't address it, I mean you don't act on it. You talk to address it, but you don't act. So what is the benefit of that second? You need to talk, you agree on it, and get the way forward you act. So that is what is much important in any city. So in summary, we find that, I hear the question of the East Africa or whatever. Well, every country has its own issues. Now when we look, let me move away from this employment. Now we have, I must also appreciate the Kenyan government for what it's doing. It's doing something wonderful, giving us protection, giving us a lot of good services. Now, refugees are given a conventional proper document, that is the CDP, refugee passport, which is valid to empower everyone. But now there is one thing. You are a refugee in Uganda, you have that CDP. Coming here, you have to take a visa. And East Africa community, there is no visa in East Africa. I see all this challenge again. Surrounding the refugees. So where are we going? And these refugees are also among the member states. So when you look at the Uganda, the post-declaration of self-reliance is going in Kampala, which is now called the Kampala Declaration. So if you go to Uganda, the way they serve, the way they pay the refugees there, and you compare one here in Kenya, there is a great gap. And in Uganda, refugees don't live in the camp, they live in settlement. And they are free to socialize, do a lot of economic activities, because those ones are for the refugees and for the country. Now here in Kenya, you say, no, refugees have come to destroy our land. You are not thinking of what good thing will the refugee do to you. So these are the key areas that we need to factor in so that we move them. there are a lot of key factors that you need to consider so that you see how best we can move at one thing. We talk about the pay, yes. There is only one factor which Israeli says is resumed. That all these employers, they say, we are avoiding refugees to pay tax. So which kind of tax are you talking about? Because refugees are paying very many tax. You are giving me 9,000 today, but you are paying me through Safaricom. Am I not paying tax? Because when I'm going to withdraw the money, Safaricom is taking some money from there. Is that not taxation? There are a lot of indirect taxations taking place. Okay, now you are telling me not to pay tax. How will my county, the area I'm living in, develop? There are a lot of businesses taking place within the refugee camp. And those businesses, all are going into county government. The taxations are there. They always come and collect taxes every year at the beginning of the year. So what does government tell us? If you say you don't want to pay this, you give them the token, which is not even a pocket money, airtime, then say it's the same. Because you are avoiding taxation can be over. That is double thing. And we have to take it.
Thank you once more. And my colleague here has exhausted everything about the questions that have been asked. Already the question on who is the employer, the TSC or the NGOs. So you have been told that it's the NGOs. So in Kakuma we have different NGOs. So when we are employed even the nationals together. So when we are employed, they employ the refugees and the nationals aside. So our advert usually is advertised differently. So for refugees, we are seeking teachers from this, maybe they can say, from this grade to this grade. They usually say C+ and above. And also for teachers within the national board, they are usually asked for different qualifications. But what I want to emphasize on is that we all do the same work, even if you are given different qualifications or whatever. I've never seen the advert one day, but we do the same work. We teach the same class, we do the same workload. Most of the things, everything we do it together as teachers. There is nothing different you are doing. Fine. If maybe I'm not qualified, maybe in terms of my grading, my high school grading, why then to others who have different level of education, who have masters, who have degrees, but they are still paid the same amount? If, for example, they were paid at least higher, I would have said yes. I don't deserve to be paid that amount because maybe I have problems. But now my colleagues with PhD or masters are being paid with me together. So there is that, still there is discrimination in Kenya, according to my own view. So about, yeah, I think that is it for now. If your question is not answered,
thank you. I hope I was able to capture all the questions. If I don't answer your question. The very first question is on statistics. What percentages are we talking about? We are close to 20% of our staff in Kenya here being refugees. And I'm talking about a staffing of about 263 employees now. So about 20% is 52 of our staff members have refugee status. Hopefully in 2026 we want to be closer to 30%. And in the coming years, our organization strategy expects that we may get to 50% if some things change. Some things have to change. But otherwise, we are stalled by the legal processes. The next question was on the support for asylum seekers. Third question. Well,
mentioned, we provide a lot of, most of the documentation that would try to fast track refugees to get their work done. So whether it is employment confirmation, whether it is facilitating documentation from the respective counties that they work in to say that they are of support for these people to get employment. So we do the back end work mostly, and then the refugee has to go through the processes that are required by the law to get the work permits, refugees or asylum seekers. And that's why I say it's a very lengthy process. I wish that the legal frameworks were able to allow them that once you have a job, then there's guarantee, or at least there is that goodwill or trust from an employer for them to fast track the process. But that's what we are able to provide as at this point. Advice to NGOs, I will try and answer that. I think there's power in multiple voices. If we all got together, for everyone who's in the social impact space, whether you identify as an NGO or you identify as a social enterprise, as we do in Homoko, there's power in multiple voices. So what we are saying is, can we collaborate to advocate for advancement of whether it's the Refugee Act or the implementation of the Sharika Plan? So there are things that are happening. Our new commissioner in DRS is giving us a lot of confidence, and DRS in the room can confirm the same, but there are some things that are shifting. Counties like Nairobi County, I think there's representation in this room, their refugee policy is quite strong, and we've seen urban refugees actually be able to fast track getting employment or work permits or business licenses. So I'm not speaking on behalf of the county, but some things are shifting. So that's what we need: shared voices to advocate for, the quicker, fast tracking of either the Sharika Plan's implementation or the Refugee Act and all the other associated policies around that. The second thing we are saying is that, again, the shared effort can help us collaborate to get people with refugee status or asylum seekers the right documentation to help them receive equitable pay. So here is what is usually the scenario: that you will have been employed by Homoko, and if your contract comes to an end, then you almost start from zero. How about building up on the documentation that this person with refugee status already has, and seeing that we are providing them that opportunity, including the pay, because we have taken the risk to confirm that this person is employable. You can bank on this person. Can we build up on that together? That's another plea that we make out to the sector. And then as we continue to develop sustainable solutions, and I'm happy that you raised this, then who speaks for the refugees in this forum? I'm happy to hear that we have people with refugee status amongst us today, and sometimes we miss them. In a lot of the conversations, we miss them. Sometimes we forget refugee-led organizations. Sometimes we forget the refugees themselves. In Homoko, it's very intentional about either having them amongst us in our offices, having them as our clients, and also proactively engaging at community level. We are on the ground. We were in Dadaab, we spent time in Ifo 2, Ifo, Dakahale, Hagadera, yesterday, the day before. That's all we did. We are mobilizing communities. We are socializing the idea that work can be created amongst these communities with the people. And we are also creating solutions that are very specific to them. So we are not coming to say, look, we want you to start this type of business. You will tell us, what type of business are you interested in? We'll provide the training, and we'll provide the funding or the investment. We'll make an investment to you. So that's what we do. We have representation of these people in our workplace and in every space that we occupy. So I'll try to answer who speaks for refugees. And then other sectors, so we don't only hire them. Remember I mentioned that we help them create jobs. So all these jobs come in different forms. You know, someone is starting a welding business. We will provide the business advisory services. How do you understand how to manage your financials? Do you understand how to leverage social media to boost your business? You know, all the core skills to manage our business is what we offer first. And then after that, we will make an investment. We'll say, you have a good idea. We are able to give you up to about $500 to start off your idea. And if you're an existing business, after reviewing your books, we will say, this is the amount of money that we give, and we can give up to $50,000 US. So we are not shy of piloting in the informal sector. You know, we are promoting agribusiness. We are promoting climate solutions, for example, and that can show up in many forms and not necessarily in employment in our offices. So Inomoko is taking a number of steps to see that we are opening up that job market to be befitting for all. From a regional integration perspective, we have spoken about many legal frameworks that have been floated around, whether it's the Kampala Declaration that you have spoken to, whether it is the East Africa refugee policy that has not yet come through. You'll speak to that, I'm sure. But also thinking about the larger frameworks, whether it's AFTA, the Africa Free Trade Area. If that was enabled, then we are saying that the businesses that we are supporting then can trade cross-border. So there are many legal frameworks that have been floated. There's good intention. I think where we stall is implementation. And this is where we have to hold ourselves accountable. Good ideas, but then how do we get them off and have them supporting the people that we work with? Thank you.
So, I'll start with the first question, how we can achieve practical adaptive efforts. As stakeholders in the legal field, I would say that we have good and progressive laws, such as the Refugee Act, which is anchored in the international laws. However, we have gaps and inconsistencies in the other laws that are used to make and advocate for refugees in Kenya. For example, the Kenya Citizenship Legislation that was mentioned. So I think the first thing we need to do is audit all the laws to have that directly affect the refugees. Once we audit all the laws, we'll be able to identify these gaps and inconsistencies. And one of the ways to get a law to be amended is by going to court or maybe amendment through the parliament. So the easiest and the fastest way is by going to court through public interest litigation, tabling those inconsistencies and demonstrating to the court how those gaps and inconsistencies are affecting the implementation of the progressive laws. So the second way is through advocacy. Advocacy, you have a strength and voice. You join hands with so many people, and through advocacy, we've seen so many changes that have been achieved from advocacy. And the last one, I would say, is yes, through advocacy. Those are some of the ways that we can achieve actual and practical reforms. So on the second question, opportunities that are there for refugees in terms of switching up and accessing integration through citizenship, I would say it's not. It may appear as a pathway for refugees to access integration, but it's quite expensive. We have a refugee residing in Kenya. He's a professional. He studied in Kenya. Tried to apply for the Class M work permit, but didn't get the Class M work permit. He switched up and accessed the EAC citizenship. And when he submitted the work permit, I think it's the class R permit for the foreigners to do EAC, and it was quite expensive. It was talking to around 500,000 annually, which is expensive and unrealistic. So I believe since the class M work permit is free, why can we advocate to fight for it and fight for accessibility of the class M work permit for most refugees in Kenya? We believe it's a pathway that's achievable and easy achieved rather than switching up and trying to get integration through the EAC. And the question whether there is a pathway to permanent residency. I'll say we've had recent developments around that. Recently we got a judgment from the High Court that now allows children born out of unions between Kenyan citizens and refugees being registered as Kenyans, which now solve the problem of refugees born in Kenya and brought up into protracted situations, which unlocks local integration and local integration as a means of durable solutions. So we're getting progress in terms of local integration and access to citizenship. Again, as Kitucha Sharia, we've gone to court and we filed a public interest litigation around that as well. If you look at the Kenya Citizenship and Immigration Act again, it says that any foreigner who has resided in Kenya for more than 7 years, they can be considered a citizen upon application. But if you look at it in the context of a refugee, they require the refugee to submit a permit for them to prove that they resided in Kenya for more than 7 years. If you look now at the permit being required to be submitted in the context of a refugee, it's a class A work permit, which is not being issued to us. So we've gone in court and we're litigating around that so that we can get interpretation from the court. On the question of whether we have all the stakeholders on the table, I'll answer that by saying that we identified and mapped out stakeholders with shared interests so that we can join hands and advocate for more refugees with access to decent employment and livelihood. On the question on whether the available spaces, and highlighted that Kenya has high percentage of informal sector unemployment, which is true. What we're doing is we are sensitizing refugees and host community members that refugees working in the informal market, which is unfortunately unregulated, they get paid money and remuneration that is not below the guaranteed minimum wage. I hope I've answered all the questions.
For answering all of the questions. I think a lot of issues are coming up in this discussion, and I just wanted to highlight the key issues that are coming out to me, and I'm sure you guys all have takeaways from this conversation, but I would like to highlight 3 takeaways. I think we've had a very good way that it's possible. We have all of these challenges, but it's possible to hire refugees, and it's up to us to find how to make it happen, how to make it possible, right? I think there's a lot of recommendations to the government on how to make this process easier. Refugees can access permanent employment if they're given the work permit, which is on law. And this is the amazing thing about the Kenyan laws. They are so beautiful on paper, but implementation is very slow. There are a lot of gaps and a lot of inconsistencies and structural issues that come with it. So can the Kenyan government make this process easy, do away with the challenges, or at least make it accessible for refugees? Because the laws exist, it's not that we are talking from nowhere. And I really hear you, and the fact that, a panel after panel discussion is happening, and the issues don't go away. I wish you were here during the card registration issue. It was a whole lot of debate to actually have refugees integrated into the Safaricom card. So let's have those conversations as much as possible. Margaret has really shared a good point on, there's power in multiple voices. Let's start this conversation. Obviously, this conversation has started a long time ago, but add your voice to that part. Let's not end it here today. And that note, I want to end the panel. Thank you so much to the amazing panel. Thank you so much for your participation as well. A hearty clap to my panelists. I'll slow down. I think I'm inviting Ellen.
A round of applause for the panelists. Please give a warm applause for Badosa for the work she's done. Time has really gone, but a lot of conversations with us today, a lot of call for partnership, around action, around education and all that, more conversations, but again, the reality of the ground. Because what we think is actually a solution for us from one end might actually be a problem on the other side. So call to action, and I think the most important thing that we must all agree that if we keep quiet and maybe say someone who's sorting out this, then at the end of the day we are losing. So there's a need for us to continue this conversation and take them to that level that we all want it to be. So that said, and then I want to welcome Professor Laura. Just give a brief. She wants to give us a small clarity, and then if time has really gone, so we won't take much time after that. We then just call it a day. So, Karibu, Professor, welcome.
Yes, thank you all for staying so late at this Friday afternoon. I think that there have been a lot of conversations here that are really important to build on. I think one of the most important things for me that has come out of this is how do we not continue to reproduce the same conversation again and again. I think this was a question that was raised. It's part of the point of looking at the reports that have been coming out from 2005. I think it's the end of the film, which says, are we going to wait another 20 years for anything to happen? So I think in terms of the film, the filmmakers, I would like to give them another big round of applause. The hope and aim of this film is that all of you in this sector will hopefully be able to make use of this, contact the filmmakers, and be in touch about using it to bring more refugee voices into the conversation, hear what they're saying. And it will be going live on their on the YouTube screen. So I hope that you can access it. You will all, if you sign, everybody should have signed the paper. And if your contact information is there, you will all get the information for access to the film. And I want to thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much, Pastor Laura. I really wish to express this so that we come to a close. But before that, I want to recognize some agencies that came in as we were proceeding with the conversation. So, if she is in the house, please just wave. If she is representative, National Oral Flight Center is in the house, please just wave. National Oral Flight Center, there. Refugee-led research hub was in the house, and now Professor then hubs for connected learning initiative is in the house. then Amauro Coalition is in the house over there, and then last but not least, Micro and Small Enterprise Authority by Dr. is also in the house. Thank you so much. I think we've come to an end of end of our discussion today. I really want to thank you all for finding time to be with us today. Staying with us up to this late evening. So one thing remaining, we need to have a group photo. Just have it here in front of the forum today, so that we capture your beautiful faces. But again, just as professors say, please let's continue this conversation. Please share this video so that more and more people are able to watch it and get some glimpse of the situation, and also enable us have more conversations regarding access to decent opportunities. So thank you so much. Welcome to the group photo. And after that, I think there's still more tea and snack just to ensure you fill your bellies. Let me just call it a day. Asanteni sana. Okay, please come to the